Okay, so what if I told you that nearly half of all startups are completely doomed before they even write their second line of code? No way, right? Well, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dismantle some of the most dangerous, toxic myths about startup growth. We're diving deep into the product-market fit fallacy and how you can actually measure genuine market demand before you step on the gas and just burn through all your capital.
42%. According to CB Insights, that is the number of startup failures caused by a single fatal flaw. It's not a bad hire, it's not missing a sprint deadline or even pricing your product wrong. It's simply this: they built something the market literally did not want. This happens all the time because founders fall in love with their own brilliant solution rather than falling in love with the customer's actual problem. Building an incredible product is, well, it's completely meaningless if nobody is actually asking for it.
To make sure we don't fall into that 42%, here is our survival playbook for today. We'll quickly cover the premature scaling trap, finding your market wedge, the PMF iteration loop, the metrics that actually matter, and finally, when it's time to actually scale.
All right, part 1, the premature scaling trap. Look, scaling before you've truly validated demand isn't growth. It's just setting your capital on fire for a product the world hasn't asked for yet. Mark Andreessen actually hit the nail on the head here. He says, you can always fix a sloppy operation, but you can't fix a lack of market. Think of operational excellence like a multiplier, or, the engine of your car. An incredibly efficient engine is fantastic, but it only helps if the market is actually pulling you toward a destination. Without that genuine market pull, moving faster just means you're driving off a cliff at a higher speed. You absolutely have to make sure there's a road in front of you first. So here's a massive myth in the startup world. We tend to think of product-market fit as this magical threshold, like a binary switch that you just flip on and boom, scaling is totally safe forever. But the reality? PMF is actually a spectrum. It's a continuous measurement over time that can strengthen, weaken, or totally plateau. I mean, just look at companies that dominated 10 years ago but lost their fit when consumer habits shifted. If you stop serving a real, evolving need, that switch flips right back off. Which brings us to a crucial, kind of painful question. What happens if you acquire users faster than you retain them? Well, you run headfirst into the leaky bucket reality. Let's be honest with ourselves here. If your bucket is leaking faster than you can fill it, you do not have traction. Actually, scratch that. It's worse. You have a growth illusion entirely fueled by marketing dollars. Moving on to part 2, finding your market wedge. Because if your bucket is leaking, it's usually because you committed the classic mistake of building a massive solution first and then going out to hunt for a problem.
You see, a tight market wedge will always beat a broad platform vision in the early days. When you aim for a massive platform right out of the gate, you get incredibly slow validation and super noisy feedback. You end up asking, who could use this? Which is just the completely wrong question. But with a market wedge, you narrow down your ideal customer profile. You target the exact, specific type of person who desperately needs you. You're solving one problem for one customer in one context. That gives you incredibly fast validation and a crystal clear signal.
This leads to probably the most important question you can ask yourself right now. Who feels this problem so acutely that they'd use an imperfect solution today? Seriously, that's your wedge. If a customer's pain is so bad that they're willing to completely overlook your early-stage bugs and, let's face it, clunky design, that is a customer whose feedback will actually calibrate your product toward true market fit. We aren't looking for casual fans here. We are looking for desperate adopters.
All right, section 3, the PMF iteration loop. Because moving fast is awesome, but speed without a customer feedback loop is really just incredibly expensive guessing.
To avoid that expensive guessing, you absolutely need a repeatable validation loop. Step 1, hypothesize. Define one specific assumption about your customer's underserved need. Step 2, test. Ship the absolute smallest, most stripped-down version that honestly tests that assumption. Remember, your minimum viable product exists to test assumptions, not to impress people. Step 3, measure the behavioral signals. Are they logging in daily? Are they inviting their team? And step 4, make a hard evidence-based call to either pivot or persevere before the next cycle starts. Now, you might be thinking pivoting is a sign of failure, right? Well, check out this data point. According to the Startup Genome Report, startups with 1 to 2 pivots actually raise 2.5 times more money and see 3.6 times better user growth. A strategic pivot is literally an evidence-based sweet spot because it proves you're listening to the market. But a quick warning for sure, if you're constantly pivoting every single sprint, you're kind of just chasing shiny objects. That's a huge red flag that your initial problem definition was entirely flawed.
Next up, Section 4, metrics that actually matter. Because to know whether to pivot or persevere, you gotta be looking at the right dashboard.
But let's get real for a second. Total registered users who never log in again? Those are just data points flattering a pitch deck. Those are purely vanity metrics, right up there with sign-up spikes and launch week hype. They tell you absolutely nothing about necessity. What sophisticated investors actually care about is durable fit. We're talking deep cohort retention, genuine workflow dependency, and users organically referring their peers just because the product is that good. So the ultimate quantitative metric for all of this is the cohort retention curve. Imagine plotting your user retention month over month. You group your users by the month they joined, and you just watch the shape of their usage curve over time. If that line eventually drops to 0, well, they tried it and left. You've got a leaky bucket. But if that curve flattens out above 0, man, that flat line is magic. It means users found enough continuous value to stay permanently. Honestly, a curve flattening above 0 is the most honest, powerful signal an early-stage founder can show an investor. Now, on the qualitative side, we've got the absolute gold standard, the Sean Ellis test. You basically just ask your active users a simple, direct question. How would you feel if you can no longer use this product? If fewer than 40% say they'd be very disappointed, well, you haven't found necessity yet. You've only found curiosity. You absolutely have to hit that 40% benchmark to prove your product is a true must-have rather than just a nice-to-have. Which brings us to a pretty brutal reality check, especially if you're building in the current AI hype cycle. Does your product actually change what a user does on a random Tuesday afternoon? A mind-blowing demo is not product-market fit. If your product doesn't embed deeply into how teams actually work, like if it doesn't integrate seamlessly into their daily, mundane workflows, they will eventually abandon it. That workflow integration is exactly where durable fit lives.
And finally, Section 5, when to finally scale. How do you know when you're officially ready to scale sales and marketing and pour fuel on the fire?
Look, genuine fit is confirmed by actual behaviors, not by wishful thinking. So here's your ultimate checklist before stepping on the gas. First, validate your market before you ever expand your headcount. Second, prioritize retention plateaus over top-of-funnel acquisition. Ensure you've pivoted with purpose to find your sweet spot rather than just wandering around. Dominate a specific market wedge before you try building a sprawling platform. And finally, confidently pass that 40% disappointment benchmark. Once those retention curves flatten and your qualitative signals are screaming yes, the whole game changes. You move from finding fit to pouring on the fuel. Your challenge shifts away from validating the product's existence and squarely toward financing and scaling it. This is exactly where strategic investor networks come in, along with operator access. Operator access just means you're hiring specialists who know exactly how to scale sales, automate marketing, and build out massive infrastructure. You aren't guessing anymore, you're executing. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely critical question to ask yourself today. Are you currently scaling a product the world hasn't actually asked for yet? Take a hard look at those retention curves, analyze your feedback loops, and honestly evaluate your market wedge. Let the data tell you the truth before the market does. Thanks so much for joining this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.